Welcome to the Liberating Joy and Learning Podcast. I'm Robert Beckchen, and today we're going to be discussing Loehr and Schwartz' book, The Power of Full Engagement. In it, Loehr and Schwartz help us understand that energy, not time, is the fundamental currency of high performance. Furthermore, will and discipline are far more limited resources than most of us realize. Consequently, performance, health, and happiness are grounded in the skillful management of energy. One way to skillfully use energy is through what Loehr and Schwartz call positive rituals. They say the power of positive rituals is that they ensure that we use as little conscious energy as possible where it is not absolutely necessary, leaving us free to strategically focus the energy available to us in creative, enriching ways. Additionally, our dual challenge is to hold fast to our rituals when the pressures in our lives threaten to throw us off track, and to periodically revisit and change them so that they remain fresh. Now, this could apply to learning liberated principles in a few ways. First of all, we might call these rituals processes, but the word rituals adds another perspective to the concept of process. Or this could help us understand working with resistance. Once we've done the work with previous primary lenses, working with resistance gives us power. Now, question to think about is, how do rituals help you improve your learning or help you keep learning?
So this is why I called it a process.
Right.
Because the rituals are something that, you have kind of set. So,
right.
On my phone, I have a little app that lists kind of the extra things that I do every day.
Right.
In addition to, get up and brush my teeth and eat and
right.
prepare meals and things like that. So, and one of those is, a few of them are specifically related to learning. So
Okay.
for me, it's about the process.
Right. Well, and I like that their use of the term ritual instead of process, because I think if it's a ritual, to me it's kind of a double-edged meaning. It's a little bit more important, but it also becomes a lot easier to do because, like you said, your morning rituals. It's a good example. We have a morning ritual. And when I get up, I get ready for work, I go make breakfast, and I've got this process or this ritual that to me has become second nature. I don't really think about it, and I can get breakfast going and get going for the day, but I'm not focused. I'm not so focused on what I'm doing. I can be thinking about other things while I'm doing that because it's a ritual. It's a process that we've developed,
right.
And I'm not expending extra energy doing that I can use to be thinking about other things at that time.
Mm-hmm. And I like the term ritual over habit because it's
Yes.
something you choose and that inherently has a positive meaning for you.
Yes.
Now, clearly there can be bad rituals or whatever, but most
Right.
of them are good. So I like that term too.
Right, and I like that instead of a habit because
Yeah.
habits can be, there's, like you said, I think with a ritual it has more of a positive connotation.
Right.
Whereas habit can be a good or a bad habit. There's kind of a 50-50
Yeah.
either way. But when you talk about rituals, it gives it a different meaning, a different importance.
Oh, it's totally different from me.
Right.
So rituals are kind of like you're going to be doing the same thing, but you're going to have different meaning from it because of experiencing it at a
Right.
different time.
Right.
Just like religious rituals, theoretically, there's meaning in those things that there's a depth of meaning
Right.
and not just a habit. It's just the same thing you do over and over again without thinking, and it may or may not have meaning for you.
Right. Well, and then get back to the question we asked: how does rituals help you keep learning or improve your learning? Like I said, once you start going through the process, or you have a ritual or a process set up, you're able to do those tasks a lot more efficiently, allowing you to whether it is take on more complicated aspects of that ritual, add more things to it, or it allows you to be thinking about and contemplating other ways that whatever you're doing will take you. Like if you're doing something that, learning the guitar, example, you figure out a ritual or a process for practicing, and once you get that down, it's kind of like muscle memory. So it allows you to start experimenting and start growing your understanding and your depth of knowledge on whatever you're studying at that time.
Right, as you choose to act. And you were the one that said, hey, I want this to be about working with resistance. Because once you start acting, you're going to be learning.
Right.
So I have a few rituals, if we want to use that term, that where I'm writing and I don't have a lot of direction for what I write, but I always learn something. So by working with the resistance of putting whatever random ideas are in my head into thoughts that I am then willing to type, because some thoughts I'm like, I don't want to type that. I don't care about that. I kind of scroll through things in my mind until I come up with something I want to write. And then there's always value in that, even if it's, it's the stream of conscious writing a lot of people do in school, right?
Right.
It's similar, right? But as I'm writing, I'm always learning something new. I'm always seeing it from a new perspective. That working with resistance always teaches me something. So there's value in that ritual that as I work with resistance.
Right.
So
Loehr and Schwartz also talk about a 3-step process for change called purpose, truth, action. Purpose, they explain, is finding the most important values in our lives and defining a vision for ourselves. Facing truth means gaining a clear picture of our current energy capacity and the obstacles that stand in the way of full engagement. Take action involves building a personal development plan grounded in positive energy rituals. In Learning Liberated, that involves being intentional about the resistance that we work with.
Right. And so taking a closer look at purpose and values, Loehr and Schwartz explain that reflecting regularly on our deepest values and in holding ourselves accountable to them is both difficult and taxing, but it may also be inspiring and energizing.
Right.
So how are values difficult and taxing?
Well, they force us, I think, to evaluate ourselves and stretch ourselves to see if we are going in the direction we want to be going. They're kind of like the markers on the side of a road, the mile markers, or the posts along the side of the road, that the markers that tell you if you're going off the side of the road, or like the groove pavement that they do nowadays.
Right.
It's a way to keep us going in the direction we want to go.
Right.
And sometimes, if you start straying from that path, you're running over those values, and that you get that rumble strip, like you're going the wrong way. You need to come back on course, because if you're not, you're going to be going off into the ditch or over the side of a cliff. And so they can be difficult and taxing because they keep us from going the direction we may, like a dog, squirrel.
Yeah, that we're really inclined to go.
Right. And that will force us to deviate from the direction we want to go. Right. And the improvement that we're hoping to get.
Right. And following on that similar path of, following on that similar analogy of driving somewhere, right?
Right.
If you're looking at a big, huge map, that could be great value, inspiring and stuff.
Right.
But if it's not what you need at that moment, it's going to be frustrating.
Well,
so we're looking at the big, huge, the map of Texas.
Right.
And Texas is huge.
Right. It is.
It's huge. And so it's hard to find where are we?
Right.
And so that can be frustrating.
Right. Well, and this, I think I've mentioned this before in this series of podcasts. One of my favorite stories is about Benjamin Franklin. And he came up with his 12 governing values. I can't remember what they happened to be. And he showed them to, and he would use these. He would focus on one for, I think it was like a month. I don't know. I can't remember.
Right.
The story.
You described this recently.
Right. I described it before. And it was his roadmap for self-improvement. And so he showed them to a friend of his. When his friend said, "Well, you're forgetting one," and it was the value of humility. Like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And that value, whenever he started working on that, he failed. His progress was halted. He was stopped, and he was struggling to figure out, why am I having such a hard time progressing with this value? And he came to realize it's not a value of his. It's not a governing principle.
Yeah.
He didn't value humility in himself. And stories about Benjamin Franklin. He was not a humble man.
Yeah, it's a value, right? It's an important value, but for him it wasn't.
It wasn't. And so that's why, like you said, you look at the big map of Texas. It's got lots of roads all over the place. Like, if you want to go to Amarillo, there's lots of different ways to get there.
And there's no mountains to break anything up.
Right.
So there are a lot of ways to get to one certain place.
And there's a lot of ways to get distracted. And so that's why I think, these values, we need to have them so that we can be going in the direction we want to go and not get diverted and end up going backwards.
Right. So values are what we use to guide our purpose. Seeking purpose and values is a lot like claiming our learning and stretching upward, inward, and outward. They say purpose becomes a more powerful and enduring source of energy in our lives in 3 ways. When its source moves us from negative to positive, external to internal, and self to others. End quote. And very often I tweak the wording of my learning claims based on truths I gather as I stretch myself to better understand what I want to learn. So within the context of a learning claim, I'm using values.
Right.
But how do values for stretching help energize our learning?
Well, I think we've been discussing it quite a bit.
We've been hinting at it.
Yeah, it's our roadmap. It's our guideposts. It's what keeps us going in the direction we want to go. Without those values, without those rituals, without those markers that help guide us, then we're just wandering aimlessly.
Right.
And we're not.
But it has to be for where we are now.
Right.
And
exactly.
And what our goals are for our learning claims. So for specific learning claims, if I don't have learning claims, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Any stretching could do, and then you get a lot of frustration with that, because if it's not what your heart really wants to do, and a lot of this podcast is turning into our hearts, right?
Right.
That's how we started. We want to give learning a heart.
Right.
And there are so many great truths out there, but within all of those truths, it's okay to say, hey, I'm going to use this opportunity to focus on this one right now. And I'm missing out on something else.
Right.
But I'm going to focus on this one right now.
Right.
Because that's what I can improve my learning with the most right now.
And it's okay to realize that changes over time.
Oh yeah, and then be like, okay, I'm gonna get to that one. I love that truth over there.
Right.
But this is the one I need right now to help me get from point A to point B, or whatever it is that I'm trying to do.
It gets back to the whole concept of seasons.
Yes.
Whatever season you're in, that's what you want to focus on.
Yes.
And it's okay if there's something out there that you're not doing, it will come around in a different season. That's totally fine. You don't have to feel bad about that.
Right. Awesome. So that's it. Thanks for joining us in the first part of our discussion of Loehr and Schwartz's book, The Power of Full Engagement. Forgive me if I'm not saying Loehr correctly.
Yes.
Next time, we'll finish our discussion of some of Loehr and Schwartz's ideas from their book. As always, if you have questions or comments, message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or message us on our Learning Liberated Facebook group. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well.
Thanks.
Bye.